Thank you very much for being here. If you just joined us or you're still with us, it's still Enterprise Weekend reaching you from Enterprise Television. Now to our main conversation for this morning. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, reported that the presidential villa and surrounding areas were plunged into darkness due to the theft of electricity cables disrupting power supply. A joint statement from TCN and Power Minister Adebayo Adelabu indicated that a 132 kV transmission line and underground cables which supply power to central parts of the Federal Capital Territory were vandalized. The damaged 132 kV underground cables transport bulk electricity to TCN Central Area Transmission Substation, from where power is distributed through 8 feeders to Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. TCN General Manager Ndidi Mba revealed that vandals stole 40 meters of 1 times 500 mm square SLPE conductors from 2 132 kV transmission lines near Millennium Park, a few kilometers from the presidential villa. As a result of several areas including Maitama, Wuse, Jabi, Life Camp, Asokoro, Otaku, Mabushi, and parts of the presidential villa are experiencing power outage, but assured that TCN engineers have been mobilized to repair the vandalized cables and restore power supply to the affected areas. We have to do justice to this very sensitive story. Joining us from Atlanta, Georgia is Barrister Vance Ufeli, a barrister, law public affairs analyst, and also from Abuja is High Chief Peter Ame. Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for being here. We truly do appreciate you.
Good morning to you.
Thank you.
Good morning to everyone.
All right. High Chief Peter Ame, I'd love to start with you, importantly, because you stay in Abuja, so you can, help us fleshing out what's happening right there, because to Nigerians this might look so very common, but in other Senate climes this is more like besieging the presidential villa and its environs. Speak to us, how bad is the situation in Abuja right now?
I've been in Abuja I came to Abuja around 92, 93, so I've been in Abuja for a very long time. And I can tell you that the current level of theft and vandalism that's happening within the Federal Capital Territory is not all connected with the level of poverty in the country. It's not at all. Because there are things I've seen in recent times that have shown that the populace are being extremely pauperized. And we're not giving an excuse for theft and vandalism. There's not an excuse. But government must do everything to create an enabling environment to make sure that this energetic youth we have, we put them to use. Somewhere a friend of mine has a property in Apple. I was there yesterday. The whole of the armored cable was pulled out from the underground, from the whole entire house, and everything was stolen. So there's a situation, there's a trend of this current activity within the Federal Capital Territory, and the lack of security is even more scary. That if something like that could affect the presidential villa, affect highbrow areas like Maitama, Wusetu, and Co., it's a call for concern that we must be able to establish security systems that are, they are digital in nature, that have sensors attached to them, so that we can, nip this thing in the bud. Because the Nigerian situation has always been done by we reacting to the situation rather than being proactive to resolving the situation, that like the underlying causes and the eventual security that should be provided by government.
Very well said. My big question is, if someone can remove a long length of armored cable, does that mean there's no electricity running within it before they removed it? Because if there was electricity running through it, I don't think it would have been possible.
I think we have crossed that part. There's no electricity in Nigeria, and people know when there's no light. So we have crossed that part. Everybody knows that Nigeria is under supply. Nigeria do not have the necessary power required to power the nation. So people know the intervals that there will not be light. So these people too are not as daft as people think. They are also studying the process where there will not be light so that they can pull this thing out. So we have a problem, an overall economic problem, that infrastructure problem that is affecting our economic development. So the TCN must also, as a company and as an organization, even with with the develop with the how they call it running of government must put it as a priority to be able to see how much that this national infrastructure that has to do with national security too, because power has to do with security. And when I talk about poverty and connect this thing with the nexus of poverty, people say, why am I always looking for a government is underperforming? Go and look at it. Poverty is violence. Poverty is violence. You can read that and get to understand that when people have been pauperized, when the situation has so deteriorated to this point. I was in Abuja when El-Rufai became minister. The underground bridge of AYA, which is Asokoro they call today, was a slum. The Beggar Bridge was a slum. People were stealing and attacking citizens in those locations. As I speak to you today, we have returned back to the same situation. We have returned back a situation that was, almost nipped in the bud, because the system that we are currently facing is that there's no economic activity, there's no infrastructure. Look, when you have a system like this and there's no production, I've said it, and I do, and man, is that it's the devil's workshop. You have this kind of situation. We're not giving excuse, but I'm telling you, because we are privileged, does not mean that we should overlook the situation that is currently going on in this country. There's no electricity and there's no power. That's why it's very easy for this thing to be pulled out.
Very true. Professor Vansufel, you are currently in the United States of America. Unfortunately, this very sad news is all over legacy media stations in Nigeria, both those in the traditional and the new media. How bad do you think this situation is when foreigners see some of these things, especially as it concerns electricity and the lack of it in Nigeria?
It is very scary. It's scary because not only have we attributed insecurity to the masses or the less privileged or the general society, but now that Aso Rock is being attacked, okay, and the seat of power has been attacked directly by insecurity, it becomes scary. It becomes more, the criminals are becoming more daring, just because also that poverty has deepened irretrievably, and government seems not to actually have a solution to the problem, okay? The issues that government have raised over the past 3 months have been issues of tax bill, how to level more tax against the people, which is not bad. No country can develop without tax, but the priority of this government must be spelled out. During their campaign, the promises, just like every government, successive and outgoing government, always they promised power. Okay, there's no manifesto in this country from the first election we have in Nigeria in 1923 to date that you do not have the manifesto of the provision of power supply to power the Nigerian state. Everyone that has come and gone have promised, how to provide power supply to general to the masses and all that. But you see, that supply is not there, and now poverty has deepened in a way that people. I saw the headlines yesterday talking about some Nigerians becoming scavengers. People are going to the waste bin to look for anything there that they can eat, and the rest of that. But you have a government in that country. So for me, I think that the problem is getting out of hand. With the time we did a story about Abuja, the man who was in Abuja, how that all the iron rails that cover the man who was in Abuja have been stolen by people who sell this and all that. But we cannot say because there's poverty that people should go and steal, or people should be indisciplined because the resources are scarce, there's inequality in society and the rest of that. We cannot say that. But when we do analysis like this, we have to state the variables. An analysis must be based on truth and fact. Okay, if analysis must be based on truth and fact, it therefore means that something must be the immediate cause and the remote cause of every action and reaction. Okay, you must have immediate and you have remote causes, and one of the immediate and or remote causes of that is poverty. poverty itself destroys everything. The rich man's world is a strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. Poverty is always at the heart of everything violence. Okay? It's at the heart of everything. So what should the Nigerian state do to ameliorate the hardship of the masses, or to, give people a kind of solace in the very devastating situation? It's for government to go and plan it out, for the National Assembly to make laws to take people out of poverty, and then to, also strengthen the prosecutorial and law enforcement agencies to go after them accordingly, and to ensure that this is nipped in the bud. Because, like I was said before, if we allow this to degenerate further, it may degenerate into anarchy. And at the point of anarchy, it will be difficult to tame the situation any further. So I hope the government understand that when you live in a society where there's extreme poverty, and less than 1% of that same population are in charge of 80% of the wealth, and are in control of 80% of the wealth, that is the establishment of inequality. No country can strive that way. So government should do what it has to do. They know what to do.
All right, very well. Hi, Chief Peter Ame. You talked about Nasir El-Rufai. And, of course, right now we have someone whom allegedly Nigerians would say is very similar to Nasir El-Rufai, that is Nyesom Wike. And of course, he has been so braggadocious about his achievement in the FCT. Speak to us, you are there. What do you think are those lacuna that needs to be filled, especially with regards to infrastructure, security, and so many other things that needs to be done, especially knowing this is the FCT?
Abuja still remain one of the actually an impressive architecture in our developmental history, but the fact still remain that Abuja does not have the necessary infrastructure to be called a federal capital of any country. As I speak to you, from what I know, when I got to Abuja, you have pipe-borne water in Nasokoro, you have pipe-borne water in Wuse, you have pipe-borne water in Garki, and the zones, not Wuse 2, the Wuse zone. Then you have in Maitama, then you have in Cuba. These are old part of Abuja that was, that Abuja started. But since we came into democratic dispensation, the only attempt to try to connect Abuja through pipe-borne water, creating infrastructure for that, was El-Rufai, with this Mandanfodio Dam being revamped and all that. But you can't have a city where there are the only struggle for infrastructure that you have is road, where everybody that builds a house in Abuja must have a borehole. Everybody that is building, wherever you are going, must have a borehole. And that, with the kind of water body that is there with the Smadapodi and all the other water body around, we shouldn't have that kind of situation.
But is it that those in charge are ignorant of this issue, or they feel it's not necessary since it's more easier and economical to have people, sink their own boreholes? Which do you think it is?
You have to development has to have. You have to prioritize how you want to develop your territory, and they are not understanding the nature or what it entails to be able to make a capital a federal capital, because you can't have a situation where people come to your country, they want to invest. When they are building their factory, they have to, they can't connect to the national board, to the pipeline that is provided as an infrastructure. They have to now dig a bore within their own compound. So it does not tell well of the state of Abuja. And then when you look at like for the security we are talking about and the issue we are talking about is that the communities where people who are not rich, where the poor people reside. I don't like to call, I used to call, where the less privileged reside. Yeah. You find out that there are no investment there. There's no attention being put there. The people are living in squalor. They are living in a very, very, very dehumanizing situation.
Which part of Abuja? Because it's very important that we make this known. Which part of Abuja are we talking about here?
Even if you go to as far as good as Cuba was a town where people have attention. You go to Nyanya today, you find out the old quarters that were built for civil servants there have become like a dump site. There are a lot of places in Abuja that you go, that there's no infrastructure, there's nothing. Have you gone to Kachiku? You go to all these places. You go now. Yes, there's a road going to Waru now. But what are the infrastructure that are there? Are infrastructure only based on connecting roads, where many people are defecating in public spaces, in open spaces? So these are the situations. Abuja don't even have public toilets. You can't travel to Amsterdam or travel to places that you can't have access to public toilet for a federal capital territory as Abuja. So this is part of a broader symptoms. This is a broader symptoms of the situation we are seeing. Because when there's no economic opportunities, when there's no equal development for people, when there's widening inequality, when there's no job, you see, one thing that people don't understand is that you cannot have a society when the vast majority of our people are living in poverty and you expect peace. Look at the statistics released by World Bank. That about 56% of Nigeria, which amount for about 129 million Nigerians, are living below poverty line. So this kind of data is scary, and you cannot have a government that have been in office that have not been able to reduce any of the data available. We're talking today, the amount of money in your pocket. I have boys who work for me on my side. They are from Cotonou. These boys are from Benin Republic and Togo. And they have been with me for over 13 years. They said the reason why they were in Nigeria before was because when they work for me, maybe they are doing a POP for me or do screening, they get the money back home, 300,000. They are already millionaires. The boy was telling me in my site, when I was telling him, oh, this is the amount of money you will pay, he said, no, God will not go take, because this money in my village, in my place, is almost nothing today. So the value of Naira has dropped. That's the purchasing power of the ordinary man has vanished. The impulsive, irrational, unplanned, unprepared policy by the president by removing fuel subsidy. Who come to work from Nyanya to come to town today? I don't know about Lagos. Yes, I was born in Lagos. I know almost area of Lagos. With the cost of transportation today, you are paying a man 100,000, 150,000. That is even above the minimum wage. The man cannot get any money to go home. You see people entering buses, entering pickups, which is even endangering the life of our very energetic young people in this country. So we must sit down, have an economic blueprint on how to drive Nigeria out of poverty. And if you drive Nigeria out of poverty and there's prosperity in this country, let me tell you, some of this little vandalism that you are seeing will not happen. Because when a man is hungry, I've seen people who are hungry. When people are hungry, you find out that their anger is extreme. You find out that the intention to do good will be undermined. So we need to be able to have a way out and to see that our government is not circumspect in this regard, to try to look at the shortest, best way to get out. And agriculture holds the easiest gestation period for agricultural product is the shortest. That we can have cassava, we can have these plantations, can become the major producer of cashew and cocoa, and then provide a job opportunity for our people so that Nigerians can go back to when the First Republic, when there was a boom. So we can't continue this and discuss this small vandalism that is also affecting the presidential villa today. It's an issue of security.
Very well.
Because if you don't have light, you have most countries that are not generating enough light are having security challenges. These are the data is in public domain. You can check it out. So you cannot having electricity and light provided for majority of your members of your citizens also guarantee some level of security for your people. Right. So people, you can imagine what people who are in rural communities will be going through with this kind of high-end cable if they can attempt to carry it in an highbrow community like Maitama and Presidential Villa District. Yes, so it's important that the president takes some very critical actions in trying to drive Nigeria back to the root where we can easily get our people out of poverty.
Very well said. Barrister Fansufeli, the president doing the needful. Just a couple of days back, he was in Abu Dhabi, and he said that his economic policies were laudable. In fact, he did say also that the government is working with local communities. We wouldn't want to, of course, disparage the person, the symbolic value of the presidency. But do you really think that the president should have maybe communicated better, knowing the reality we have on ground?
Well, for the optics, when you are outside of the country and you are looking for investors, and you think that getting investors is by going to talk, you can say that because you cannot go out to run down your country, okay? You can say that, and you can say what government is trying to do. You know, most of the time they say what the government is trying to. You can say all that, but because of but back home here, we understand that the variables are different. Okay, they are different to the extent that if you cannot provide jobs for the large population of citizens, and you cannot also give soft loan to the citizens, why do you disrupt their life, their way of life, and then you are unable to put them back to track for this long? And you keep saying that that's the best option. You see, what this government should have done is to go back to agriculture, like the last speaker said. You see, the land we see, this land we all march on. The earth is an industry, okay? It's an industry. So the government must find a way to draw people back to their roots, okay? Because the best form of employment is self-employment that is tied to land, okay? As a factor of production. People should go back to growing what they can feed on, okay? You know, there are short-term crops and there are long-term crops. There are crops that get ready in 90 days, which you can go through irrigation, whether in and out of season, okay? Government should really support that. Support that through the state government and the local government. Okay, support the people through, just like it said, in the First Republic, industrial engagement that has to do with personal investment was largely on agriculture. I know many people who went to school today because of that window. They went to school, they went to university, they came today, most of them are doing well. They got resources from farming, okay, to pursue their dreams and aspirations. So that industry, that land industry, is what this government must explore, okay? And the government must also give people loan. It's not enough to go to the president is actually more out of the country than he is in the country. I've never seen any president that travels, all around the world, like the president of Nigeria. I don't know what he's looking for, but what I know is that governance should be resident. You should be resident in your country to understand the challenges and to provide solution to these challenges.
But okay? Barrister, the media handlers might differ. The media handlers of the president might differ on this particular matter, because when Nigerians say that the president should be domiciled more in Nigeria, they will say, then why is he the president? He should go out there and make good for Nigeria. Don't you think so?
No, you see, when you are going out, you have to put your country in shape before you start to go out. So, because the people are seeing the indices, they are seeing the level of unemployment. The would-be investors are looking at your manpower. They are looking at your minimum wage. Okay, they are looking at the fact that a lot of companies are exiting the country. Okay, apart from the Chinese, the Indians, and the Lebanese, there's no other conscious investor that is from, a formidable track of the first world that is coming to invest in the country. Imagine when just those who come to invest in your country are those countries that have high rate of lawlessness. Okay, and among all of them, just one that's among the G7, okay, which actually presupposes that Nigeria isn't a destination for investment. It stands because it is the result of the influx of investor to a location that determines whether that place is, fertile or not. Our place have been taken away by the likes of Angola, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. Okay, those are countries that have actually stepped into the Botswana and the rest of that. Now we're like the fourth largest economy in Africa. We used to be the first. So you see that the subsidy thing was one of the things that was edging our economy into balance. Okay? But now that equilibrium have been pulled out of the feet of the economy. So the economy is on its knee now. The economy has gone to bed. And then the president is all over the place with that glamorous display of uncertainty, which cannot, bail us out from our present condition. Our present condition is precarious, and it's one that requires serious economic thinking. The handlers of the president are perhaps as ignorant as them, and none of them actually, from the way they speak, none of them actually could decode economic reasoning and factors responsible for the trap where we are now. There's a way you push these handlers and present to a point with questions and all that. They will tell you that the previous government didn't do well. That's why the present government is not doing, and the rest of that. We've seen that over and over again. But governance shouldn't be that way. People should be led purposefully. There should be a dream. There should be a destination. There should be a vision. People should know that they are being moved from point A to point B progressively and not retrogressively. They should not wake up every day to live lesser than they lived the day before. Once you have that kind of lifestyle where people now are full of uncertainty, they go to bed not knowing how the next day is going to look like. The gloom and the level of decay is scary. But this government seems not to be getting it. And in the midst of all this, there's massive corruption ongoing. Massive corruption ongoing as we speak in the midst of this level of gloom. So how long are we going to be in this situation? How long will it take this government to micromanage the situation, to pull people out of this uncertainty and give them a life that is desirable? When are you going to have that? These are the questions that this government must answer. They've not done well at all.
Very, very well. Hi, Chief Peter Ambe. My last question to you, because it's so very important that we, hope and desire that our cities, rank amongst other big cities and great cities. At least let's start from Africa before we crisscross to other parts of the world. Unfortunately, Abuja is right below expectation. We have cities like Dar es Salaam, we have Addis Ababa topping the chart. Lagos came at least fifth, and Abuja is far, far, far back. And the question is, how do you think we can get this, up to speed, especially with respect to infrastructural, development, like you've rightly said, and other things? Do we need a change of individuals that understand what they should do, or is a systemic issue that needs to be dealt with?
And for me, Barrister, I've talked about the systemic issue, and I'm very proud of the way he put it, purposeful leadership, and talking about people should not live less than what they did less, or when they wake up every morning, they shouldn't live less like they did yesterday. There should be progressive growth in our country. And for you to have that, there are foundations that are responsible for us not getting it right. One, we do not have a transparent election. And that's why you find out people like Barrister who say, no, I'm a lawyer, I don't want to get into politics. You see people say, no, they don't want, because people have seen politics as something that is meant for dubious people. Because people just come hijack power without the necessary credentials to lead their people, hijack power without the mandate of the people, hijack power without legitimacy. And when we don't have a clear-cut process, and we don't have an established modus for electing our representative through a transparent process, we'll continue to have this kind of knee-jerk approach to development, to building community. Look, Bola Tinubu was elected the same time the Argentina president was elected. Argentina was in debt of over $12 billion. The country was running on the ground. The country wasn't going anywhere. What did the young man do? The man did not travel as Bola has traveled over 30-something times in the last 1 year. He didn't travel. The man stayed in the country. First of all, looked at the loopholes that encourage corruption, where people are stealing their money. Reduced by that doing that, because government cannot continue to spend unnecessarily, light our money on fire, spend without prioritizing the needs of the people, and expect inflation to drop when there's no production. If you look at the component that makes all the food, that made all the inflation to 34.8%, food inflation is on top of the list. Where can we have an arable land of 39.9 million and Nigeria is having food inflation up to 40%? So the challenge is that we have a governance system that is just myopic, that is central focus on bureaucratic approach and to sentimental approach, to regional approach, to appointment, who think that the greatest power of being in government is the appointing authority that the president has. And whoever I wish to favor should be people from his side. So we have this kind of thing that we are not putting competence, merit, and ability into focus. Whether you are Igbo, whether you are minority, whether you are majority, it doesn't matter if you have a government that will do well. So our problem per se is that we have a government that have a zero focus on development, that is not interested in sitting back at home, calling young men who know better to discuss with, and put proper measures in place to drive Nigerian back to the land industry that my brother has mentioned, that my co-discussant have mentioned, so that we can put our people back to work. Because you cannot have this kind of energetic young population that blood is pumping through their vein, looking for opportunity to discharge the energy, not have a place. I have young people come to my place every day. Sometimes I want to cry. My relative alone, who cannot have access to job, who have graduated, who are young, who I saw them, people who are in their 25, who are 25 to 30 years old, and they can't get jobs. So how do you expect those people to continue, if not because of this communal lifestyle that we are living? That you today, you are sending 5,000 to people you know. You that you are my brother, the lawyer, is sending 10,000 to people he knows. This is the only reason why our situation, our security challenges have not gone beyond at the reach of government. That's why they are still within the managing area, because of the community arrangement, the communal relationship, the bloodline economic assistance arrangement. So we cannot continue to have a government that has zero focus on development. Because if Argentina can do it within a space of 1 year, and by cutting down cost of governance, by reducing the bureaucratic bottlenecks that stifle the development of the economy, by opening up the space that encourage development, we must have our president that sits back at home, that is not going up and down. See, you can't preach to people to come and invest in your country. Nobody is preaching from Dubai today. By the 90s, when Dubai was not doing well, nobody was going there. But when Dubai woke up and started doing well, people looked for Dubai. People look for UAE. People look for Saudi Arabia. People are looking for America. Because people are going to China today. The reason China was so much in poverty that their people could not have what to eat. They had to even develop a policy for reproduction, that people should have every family should have one child. So that's the level of poverty that China got into. The people never cared about them. In fact, in this country, growing up in Lagos, in Yaba, you hear this is Taiwan, this is Chinese product, don't buy it, it was fake product. Today, it's the only product that the world is almost depending on, even in Western world. So you cannot have a country that you don't have a continuous development agenda, you don't have a short-term plan, you don't have a long-term plan. What we are doing is that people wake up at their own whims and caprice and then tell you that they want to build Lagos Calabar Highway. There was no discussion, nothing. No, how do we do it? How are we going to do it? People have to raise the alarm that it was not even in the budget this time. People wake up and become president. The first thing they want to do is to live by on the resources of the public by living luxurious lifestyle, by buying Escalade. When we have official cars that president were using that was bought during Buhari time, by going to buy jet for 150 billion. Look, you can't look at the indices and be happy. In the poverty index, Nigeria is rating about 146 to 180. When you come to the human capital development index, Nigeria is about 161 to 189. So what are the statistics that is even in the public domain that should be encouraging to say that the president is performing? None. So the president must come back home, like my brother Abraham said, to put his focus on trying to look at how to put the land industry, which we have about 39.6 million arable land, put it to the use for the common man, and make sure that the byproduct, the investment that comes from there, we drive Nigeria into industrialization. We can't continue to talk about government of nothing, government of appointment, government of letter writing, and government of discussion, of talking about fact, of talking about allocation, and doing nothing. Yeah, people talk about tax that no nation in the world can do without tax. What is our tax being used for? Even the resources, the oil that we pump, what is it being used for? Nigeria is the only country among the OPEC producing country today that does not have a flow meter on how much barrel it can produce in a day. Nobody wants to digitalize that flow meter because people are stealing this oil on IC on a daily basis.
Very true.
These ships that carry oil, that come and take crude oil, they are not ferries, so there are some of them as big as 19-story building. So you cannot tell me that security agencies are not seeing them. So we have there's a collusion between those who in government and those outside government to hold on that the Nigerian populace continue to suffer and remain in perpetual poverty. Until we rise up to defend our right, I think we should continue to see this trend, for a very long time.
Thank you so very much. Ambassador Fansufeli, in 90 seconds, if you may, talking about collusion and, of course, security in Nigeria. Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, inherited a country that was besieged by criminals. It was a place no one loves to live in, but he came in and he totally changed everything. Today, El Salvador is one country every tourist loves to visit. How do you think we can get it right in Nigeria?
You can get it right in a country where you have visionary leadership. There's nowhere in the world as a perfect place, But the problem we have is that Nigeria is self-sabotaging. The problem of Nigeria is self-inflicted. And it's self-inflicted by the leaders. The one that stands out very well is that of Bola Tinubu, which became a very big issue because he self-sabotaged the economy, the nation, and brought it to its knee. And he has not been able to put up a credible comeback. That credible comeback is actually the requirement of a visionary leader who should push forth and bring this country back to life. He has not been able to do that, and is unaware of that. That is the worst part of it. He has consistently said that the decision was the best decision ever in the world, that it's going to bear fruit, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, but under what condition, under what price? The price we are paying for this unprepared policy is much more costlier than whatever the promise that the policy is going to deliver in the long run. Because what they said the policy will deliver in the long run is just a projection that is unclear. They are not even sure of that deliverable. They are just saying it. They are not sure. They don't have the confidence to push for that argument irresistibly persuasive and convincingly. They don't have it. Okay? So it's just an autopilot. And the greatest sin you will commit, against God and humanity is to tell people that they should go this way when that way actually leads to no way. That's exactly what the president did when he was sworn into office. He took this country to a road that have no way daring and have left the people rudderless and abandoned. And he's been talking about economic philosophies that have no bearing in the realization of what a leader should lead a country with vision, aspiration, dreams, and prosperity. So what we have is just like a plane that is flying without pilot, or a plane that is flying, the pilots are deep asleep or drunk. That's exactly how we're going, and that's not the best way, because the truth is that you have children as we speak now. The children are being born today in Nigeria. What is the plan of this government for them? What is the vision of the country that these children should cling on to? Okay, that's one of the questions you need to ask. You see the level at which people are going into crime because the country have no vision. There is nothing to sell, no dream to sell to the younger generation. There's no dream to sell to the old, young, whatever it is. All that we have to sell is the corruption and massive embezzlement of the leaders of this country. And that is, to say the least, most unfortunate.
Very well said. The truth of the matter is, someone would say Nigeria has finally happened to the presidential villa, because if that a very symbolic place, could be besieged, by cables being caught, and which means there's no saving ground for us. It's often said that the blue whale is the largest mammal on earth, but the blue whale cannot be larger than the ocean it swims in, which means no matter how influential you are and highly connected you are, you cannot be larger than the society you live in. Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for being part of our show today. By Stefan Sofeli, hi, Chief Peter Ahmed, we truly do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. All right, so that does it for today. We truly do appreciate you. I want to believe you enjoyed our show just like I did. But please do well to visit us. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwebike. Thank you for watching. I'll see you. Bye-bye.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.